let's proceed. I think now Dr. Nani Gabriel from Quantity Survey is present, and I think we can invite him to give us the second talk. So, Dr. Gabriel Nani from Quantity Survey, you are welcome, and we wish to hear from you. Thank you very much, Doctor.
All right, thank you very much. Um, I salute my surveyor president, surveyor Dr. Amaglu, and then my colleagues, surveyor Dr. Anthony Akwaje and surveyor Zinzin IT. So speaking to you on the coin surveying, I believe this has already been explained to you that the division is of, the institution is of 3 divisions, and the coin surveying division, it's one of them. And the coin surveyor, what do? We are basically referred to as construction cost managers. Some may liken it to construction accountants. I'm trying to explain it to you in a very simple terms so you can understand clearly what we do. So cost managers or construction accountants, and then we develop competencies in several aspects of this. We end up specializing in construction generally. So you find coin surveyors on construction sites, supervising, noise at the background, supervising construction, managing resources, resources such as materials, managing labor, managing plants, even the selection of resources, the selection of plants, and etc. You find coin surveyors looking at that. And then we also exhibit expertise in the reading of designs, drawings, design drawings, both architectural, structural, services, and etc. And then we interact with these people because of the uniqueness of the coin surveying profession. And generally, at the core of the coin surveying profession, it's about reading construction, whether it's the building is standing or the building is on drawing, reading it and then converting the drawing into what we call quantities and then converting it further into costs. So you'll be able to determine that this is the cost of the building. And in the process, we'll be able to determine and advise on how this cost will be spent over the construction period, or how decisions will be made about this cost and etc. So we find ourselves playing the role of, let's say, cost engineers. So you refer to, when you are on an engineering project or construction project, you may be referred as a cost engineer. But mostly in Ghana and the Commonwealth, we are referred to as a coin surveyor. So you find yourself also performing the role of contract administration, in which case you will call contract administrator. We also find ourselves performing procurement activities. So you find yourself sometimes called construction procurement manager, and mostly you specialize in the procurement of works. There is a bit of sharing there with supply chain specialists who specialize in procurement of goods. But when it comes to the procurement of works and services, no one compares to the coin surveyor. Then we also specialize in dispute resolution. You know, anywhere there are resources to be shared, and especially when money is involved, of which we are the center as coin surveyors, there's bound to usually be disputes. So we also specialize in alternative dispute resolution. So you try to bring the parties together in a contract, and then once there are issues, there are disputes, you want to help them to resolve those disputes. Then we do project management generally. So you run a project from the inception and you manage it, you manage the stakeholders, and you steer it through the process of construction until the project is over. So it's also one of the things we do. We do project audit. So once a project is done, you go through the audit to make sure things are handled right. In terms of how monies are spent, whether it's spent well, we'll look at people, whether there has been fraud, and you also do performance review on projects. So those are things we do at Quant Surveyor. We do value analysis and value for money, which is one of the most common things in our environment in recent times. We do value There are various methods of doing this value for money analysis, and you can count on the Quant Surveyor to be an expert to use the appropriate method to the best value for whatever money that is available to be spent on the project. Then we do value management. Value management, as we already talked about projects, or I already talked about projects or construction managers. We manage the construction process from the beginning to the end. So you find Quant Surveyors on site going through all this, guiding the tradesmen and etc. to make sure the construction is done the way it needed to be done. So generally, you find Quant Surveyors spread across various aspects of the construction. And usually there can't be a new construction without a Quant Surveyor. The most common organizations in which you find Quant Surveyors include consultants, construction consultancy firms. And so you can walk into a construction company today and you wouldn't find Quant Surveyors. There would be several of them because they sort of manage the profitability of those construction firms. So you find yourself there. Then consultancy firms are usually involved with projects in respect of cost in those consultancy firms that relate to construction. When an architect is involved, you invite a surveyor to partner. When a civil engineer is involved in his designs and etc., he will definitely invite a Quant Surveyor to partner him so that they can appropriately advise the client. And a lot of client organizations also invite Quant Surveyors to help them with advice on cost as far as construction is concerned or infrastructure is concerned. So government agencies like highways, you find Quant Surveyors there. You find them in feeder roads, you find them at urban road, and here they refer to them as contract managers. So they only don't work with the quantities and the cost, etc. They also give general contract management advice as well. As far as public procurement authority, you find Quant Surveyors there. And in a lot of organizations where they do procurement of works, that is, they procure infrastructure, buildings, organization, like some of the banks. You find them also with funding agencies. We take, for example, Get Fund. You find a lot of Quant Surveyors there. Road Fund, you find a lot of Quant Surveyors there playing several roles. Even at the World Bank, at the African Development Bank, you find Quant Surveyors there advising on construction costs and etc. I must say, anywhere that you need to measure in order to determine the cost, in order to find out how costs must be managed, how to reduce costs, how to get value for money, and etc. You find a quant surveyor there. So generally, it's a diverse profession. And during your studies, you may study several things, ranging from economics, construction economics, development, appraisal and analysis, to law, to history, to the measurements of to construction technology itself, to procurement, and several others. And they all have application in the industry. In industry, you may not find yourself practicing all this, but then you would get to realize all that you are learning in school will find a role in what you may find yourself doing at one time or the other. I think there's a lot more than what I've said, but then I will just pause here and allow you to just ask your questions so we can clarify more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Surveyor Dr. Nani Gabriel, for such a wonderful presentation. He spoke on the KOS section of GHIS and the role they play in construction industries and then construction fields. Thank you very much, Surveyor Doctor. We really appreciate your time and then your presentation. This juncture, I'll pave way for anyone who has questions, suggestions, or contributions to alert me by raise of hand so that Dr. Surveyor Nani can duly address our challenges. Anyone with a question, contribution, or suggestions, or any add-ons can alert me with a raise of hand so that you pose your question to Dr. Gabriel Nani. Thank you. Dennis, I think Dennis wants to ask a question. Dennis, can we hear you, please?
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity. Please, as a professional quantity surveyor with a master degree, can you also prepare structures? And what are some of the master programs available for a quantity surveyor after first degree? Please, my question. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Nani. Please, did you get the question wrong?
No, I've gotten a question. I was thinking we'll take two at a time, but it's okay. Once you complete your quant surveying, quant surveying and construction economics program or construction technology management program, you have at your disposal several areas to which you can do your master's degree. I mentioned we should be restricting ourselves to the professional as the GHIS and then the professional qualification. But then I should mention that people go into construction project management. People go into project management. Some go into civil engineering construction. Some go into procurement management. I know some people who are even taking a master's course now in geotechnical engineering. That's after reading quant surveying and etc. I know people who proceed to go and read construction law. I know people who specialize in alternative dispute resolution and branch into the law there. I know people who branch into banking and specialize in that sector of banking that deals with loans and funding of construction projects and so on. So there are diverse courses available to you at the master's level. And then I think somebody was also asking about civil engineering design, that's structural design. In school, you are taught extensively how to do structural designing. And apparently, there are people who branch or who specialize after school, specialize in structural engineering or structural designs and could do it. But then the course is not intended as an engineering course. So though you can design it, the purpose was for you to understand the structural designs. So on site, you'll be able to construct it as it ought to be constructed so that you can understand the structural designer very well. And in that process, to be able to cost it as well. So those are the reasons you go deep into the design of structures. But the intention is not for you to become a structural engineer. Yeah, though some end up becoming doing structural design extensively. I believe I've answered that question.
Master Dennis, please, are you clear with the explanation from Dr. Nani?
Yes, I'm clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.